Hello everybody, it's Dave Neal, stand-up comic and host of Bachelor Nation News. In this video, we have Hannah Brown opening up about details from her season of The Bachelorette for the first time ever. She discusses Luke P. and, of course, the shaming she felt after the quote-unquote windmill incident. It's very fascinating stuff. She explains why she was livid and shares some never before heard information on the latest podcast. So we're going to get into that shortly. As you guys know, I'm in the mobile studio here in Indonesia, so I've been without some of my equipment, but the tea is serving. Now, before we get into the story, I have to tell you, I made a non-Bachelor related video, which they don't always perform well on this channel, but I have to tell you, this is the most interesting story I've covered probably since Colton Underwood. I am not kidding you. We have an influencer here who hires a detective, a private investigator, and gets revenge on 200 plus Reddit accounts and finds out all of their names, therapists, nurses, firefighters, and she finds out her ex-husband was part of this hate campaign, and she's going scorched earth, and I love it. I shared clips with this. It's a separate video. It's a long one. If you want to listen to the audio, only go to Bachelor Rush Hour, the podcast, but I'm telling you right now, this video is already out. I dropped it first thing this morning. You're gonna want to check that out. Okay, let's go to Hannah Brown. So Hannah Brown was on the Love to See It podcast discussing her season of The Bachelorette. And as you guys know, sometimes time heals. Sometimes we can look back on bad situations from a different place several years later, and Hannah Brown's doing just that. Let's see what she has to say about the windmill incident and also Luke P returning. Now, right before I share this video, let's just go to the TikTok, the Bachelorette Windmill. Of course, Bachelorette Windmill, the TikTok account, named after the infamous windmill that we all know about. But we have Luke P essentially, he was a character. And of course, he was sued by Bachelor producers for $120,000 and lost. But he was essentially driving back after being completely rejected and kicked off the show with probable producer help. Of course, he had Neal Lane's ring. He had a diamond ring ready to propose. Check this out. Oh, hold on. We just lost it. Hold on, let's go back here. So this is the beginning of his return. They got the ring in his hand.
Prove to her how serious I am about this.
He said, I'm going to prove to her how serious I am about this. And they did this during the live taping. So people were going insane. Now, of course, I can't share any more of that content because of copyright, but you can go check out those old clips. This might have been the highlight of the show. People are still talking about it today. Here was Hannah's response.
We did also want to ask about Luke's then returning to the next rose ceremony. And I was interested how that felt to you when you saw him there, because very obviously he could not have returned without producer approval and buy-in.
Oh, I was livid. I was so mad. And so some of that also anger was like at everyone. Mm-hmm. I was like, really? And same thing, it was like really aggressive, but I don't know. It makes me mad to know. I mean, I think somebody was giving Luke false hope to where he was being that confident. Or maybe not.
So this is the closest that we're going to get to admitting that the producers led Luke P on. Now, of course, he doesn't just jump in an Uber and grab a diamond ring to do this. The producers, in one way or another, led him on. And as we know, he went on 4 different podcasts. Or was it 5? I think it was 5, actually, because I think he was sued for $20,000 for each appearance. Either way, he was sued for $100,000 plus $20,000 in court fees. He lost, and I don't know if they ended up collecting on the $120,000. I'm assuming they did, but either way, they sent a message that, look, when it comes down to how the show is, sort of drawn up and all the behind the scenes, that NDA lasts for a lifetime.
No idea. But for me, I was just like, oh, like I can also remember like when the crazy came, I'm like, when like I just got like so mad, and it was like, watch out, whoever's in my way, because this is not it was already like it was the hardest rose ceremony for me. Like, it switched at the very end. I like really genuinely like had feelings, all three of the guys. So like I was like, I wish I could have one more time. So it was just really hard already. So then I just was really mad.
Yeah.
Also.
Yeah, I mean, suddenly you're just like, oh, maybe it's everyone.
Yeah.
Who's making this happen. Like,
Yeah.
I can't trust that anyone is.
Which is, of course, Katie Thurston and so many other leads have had the same experience where they go, oh, the person that, in Katie Thurston shared that she didn't talk to her producer for a year because of something that happened where she probably felt like her trust was violated. Because in the end, they don't work for you. It's kind of like anyone who works in a corporation. Like human resources, they're not necessarily there to protect the employee. They're there to protect the company. So you have to remember in all circumstances that no one's looking out for you. Hannah Brown realized that when Luke P. showed up.
Oh, trust me, they got an earful from me. They still, like, I will talk to, like, a few of them just every so often, and they're like, they called me, they're the ones that kind of helped the beast become a thing, because they're like, you were an absolute, like, they loved me, but I would be like, okay, enough. And I would kind of, not be a diva, but just, like, same way, like I would get to my point where I'm like, this isn't okay anymore, and I'm not doing this. And that was one of those moments. They had a long ITM where I just like talked directly at them.
You should all be ashamed of yourself.
Yeah.
As you should have, honestly.
Yeah, honestly.
Yeah.
We did.
So the problem is they're poking the bear, the producers that is, and they want to elicit these reactions. They want to get Katie Thurston to run off the set. They want to get Hannah Brown to kick down a podium. This is good TV, but what's the collateral damage there? Now, honestly, I don't necessarily feel bad for Hannah Brown because she was the lead of the show. She was getting paid $100,000+ for this and clearly has made millions. At least $1 million since the show. I mean, she's from the height of the show. She won Dancing with the Stars, which pays 6 figures. She won the recent G.I. Joe show, whatever the hell that is. You know, she's done just fine with her book deals and the journals and this and that. Luke P., on the other hand, we don't know. We don't know. And I know it's not, you know, I always say this. It's easy to feel bad for like the hero, but it's hard to empathize with the person that might have been the villain. And when you look at Luke P., this is a guy that we don't know. We don't know what his convictions were with regards to what the producers were telling him. They might have, you know, there were moments where he looked so shellacked, where he was like, are you kidding me? I thought I was the guy. You told me you would do this or that. So he clearly was led on. Whether it was by her or the producers, I would lean on it being more producer driven. But I don't trust that anyone, you know, if he was a real threat to the show, I don't think the show would have brought him back. But the show saw, you know, we call it a useful idiot. They saw a useful idiot and they played him. And then when he tried to expose it, in one way or another, they sued him. They got the last laugh. It's not good. Now, again, we don't know all the details here because he got sued when he tried to share them, and we'll never know this. And I interviewed Hannah Brown. I did it on a live behind the scenes. I'm the only one who has the video of the interview because it was for a private event, so I can never share it, not even with the Patreon, unless Hannah Brown wants it. She's the only one who can get it, slide in my DMs. But she discussed a lot of these things, and it's just like, you know, they're not allowed to divulge the secrets that make it so nasty. Here's how she actually says she could kind of understand, in some ways, where Luke P. was coming from.
I also want to say, like, I don't feel like I've gotten to like say this really, like, that was really hard, the like response from that. Like, some people like really were like, oh my gosh, like, yes, sex positive. And then there also was like another side that was like really disappointed in me or like upset. And that was probably like the toughest thing out of everything. And I also like understood where Luke was coming from, because we see a lot of girls that say, you know, they're like, hey, like, this is just something I'm not comfortable with. That, I think that is totally fine to say. I get it. And I think that's how the conversation like really started, of like, hey, like, I can understand this. It's kind of hurtful when you said that you love me and then you kind of give me like these like, but if you do this, that was hard. And I didn't like that. But
that being when Luke P was like, if you love me, you won't sleep with these other men, or these sort of ultimatums that exist. Look, it's not right. You can't control someone else, but you can say, you could say the healthy version, which is, I wouldn't want my future wife, if I end up getting engaged to this person, to be doing these other things. That's a fine boundary you can set for yourself. But just don't go on the show, because that's what the show does, right? I feel like a lot of people are indoctrinated with a lot of the ways they talk about this, talk about love, like love. And again, this isn't a knock on religion. Just certain religions will use love as a force of control. If you love me, you won't do this. If you love me, you won't do that. And that's not what Jesus was all about.
It was such a long conversation that I think it just got to where I started to just not get meat, but like I was just angry. Mm-hmm. And all that was said in a moment of anger. I never, like, I still feel bad. Like, even like Peter's season was all about like the windmill thing. Like, that was never intended, I thought, to be on TV. I was kind of told it probably wasn't going to be on TV. So like, it was just like that was really hard. It was all like a really hard situation that then I just had to lean into.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, what do you ever do?
You've got to lean into it. Something I really like struggled with, because I mean, people like all the time are like joking about it, but that was a really hard season, and I'm proud that I could like represent, like, it is okay. Like, I did have sex and Jesus like loves me, and I'm not like, I can't hold on to that shame or guilt of that. But at the same time, it wasn't like, that's not something that like, I'm like badge of honor, like thing that it kind of became. It was a moment of like intense anger.
Yeah, that's funny how that happens, where like, and I relate this back to Katie Thurston, because they are both like a sort of like images of sex positivity on the show. And it doesn't mean that's all they're about. They're just comfortable discussing like, hey, this is an element to who I am. And I got to give Hannah Brown a lot of credit. She wears a lot of her pain with a smile. And we don't always get to see how much pain someone's dealing with when they grit their teeth and get through it. I think she's done a lot of work, as she's discussed, to overcome her, how she feels on the inside with all of these things. But it takes a lot of time. We see a pretty affluent, privileged person who still makes mistakes, but she's done very well for herself. And we don't see the child that wants to fit in and feel loved and all these things. And they're put, they always say like it's, everyone wants to rise to the top, but when you're on the top of the mountain, it's lonely up there. And she was up on the top of that mountain, and God knows she had to have a lot of faith in herself to get out of there. And I'm glad she's sharing her story. Let me know what you guys think. Leave a comment. Again, if you haven't checked out this other influencer clip, I'm telling you, it's fascinating. It's going to be on today's Bachelor Rush Hour, the podcast. Link in the comment section if you want to check that out. And everyone have a fantastic weekend. One more piece of content coming to you right after this.